Hello, Libra. Libra, we are here to do a full year, 12-month love reading with tarot. That means we are going to be going over every single month for the year 2026 for those of you who are in a relationship already. Also for those of you who have your eye on someone but might be separated or not with someone. And then lastly, of course, also for those of you who are interested in dating and maybe getting back into the dating scene. Now, this reading is going to be using a tarot deck. We're zoomed out right now, but this tarot deck that we will zoom into in a moment is called the Yokai Tarot deck. It's one of two decks that we're going to be using here. I'm just getting a shuffle going and laying them all out. And this is a tarot deck that is based off of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So the interpretations are going to be the same that you are used to. It's just that you get to look at Japanese mythological folklore while we do this. I'm also going to use another tarot deck as some extra cards to show us what's going on in the almost like extra energy or extra events of each month. And some clarification aspects. That'll be with my Dark Fantasy Tarot deck. So I'll use that one and shuffle that one as we go. And I'm just about done here so that we can zoom in. But the way that we're going to look at this is it is going to be set up like so. This will be January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. Might I say, you have a very interesting spread. Okay, let's zoom in. Let's get January going here. So, amigos, hello. Libras, you have Ace of Swords coming in for January. That's victory. That's communication. But communication that leads to victory. This is a card, Arthur Edward Waite, who is the creator of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, who would have looked at the crown that usually sits on the top of the Ace of Swords as a concept of victory here. And because, of course, it is a card connected to the suit of air or the swords, it is things like communication and thoughts or messages that come in. Bearing in mind, though, most people don't realize this. Arthur Edward Waite actually didn't make it a big thing about connecting his deck of cards to astrology. I know a lot of people favor that perspective when we look at swords and we say, oh, it's the suit of air or it's connected to a certain horoscope sign. That was actually more so the Hermetic situations, like the Orient or the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. These were groups that Arthur Edward Waite, like in part, was associated with, like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or the Aleister Crowley or Levi versions of doing tarot. But Arthur Edward Waite pulled away from those traditions. So if you do prefer to interpret tarot that way, then have at it. But I like to do it the Arthur Edward Waite way, so I don't necessarily attach it to the air, but I attach it to the depictions, the pictures. And air is a quality that shows up on this card because there are clouds in the card, right? It's a very sky-worthy messages, communication kind of situation. But I do want to mention, if you notice, the clouds in this particular depiction are gripping on a sword. And what is a sword? It is typically a tool that you use to forge your way forward. But when you have this many hands, as the depiction shows here, grabbing onto this. No, that's my son coming in. Don't mind, he has echolalia in a communication situation, so he kind of makes some interesting, unique noises with his communication. And yeah, with all of these hands on the sword here, it does to some degree insinuate there could be a victory had over a previous battle situation. And by battle, I mean in relationships where you are with someone, there could have been tension. And all of a sudden, victory starts to come in the month of June. If you are not with someone and you're separated from someone, then perhaps, again, you got separated from this person because there was some kind of a tension that was involved. And this Ace of Swords insinuates a kind of newness. Again, new messages, a new endeavor that might assist in this dynamic. And for those of you who are not dating anybody and you're just thinking about stepping into the world of dating, this is a great time in the month of January where you could see communications come in. Now let's grab that extra card here. What do we have? Oh, it's the Nine of Pentacles. It's in the reversal position, showing up with victory. You know what's wild is the Nine of Pentacles is traditionally the card they say of the single person. So again, it could be for some of you, victory in your singlehood, or victory in the reason why you became single, or the reason why you became separated. But for those of you in a relationship, the Nine of Pentacles could have, it has like in the upright a very independent energy, but in the reversal a very codependent energy. And a lot of people are afraid of the word codependent. They're like, oh no, don't be codependent. You shouldn't be like that. That's not evolved. That's not the best human way to be. And it's like, no, codependency is required in life. It's just, it depends on the moment that it's required. And in this case, when you've got it next to a card of victory, we can view it as a victorious energy connected to codependency, winning over any negative codependency. Something that's really interesting, though, is that card for some of you. That card, for some of you, has a energy called bad faith and voided projects when it's in the reversal. Again, according to Arthur Edward Waite over 100 years ago, when he published his Pictorial Key to the Tarot in 1910. So if there is a circumstance where you have been in a relationship and someone had bad faith in the relationship, they didn't think it was going to work out, or somebody voided the project, somebody voided the relationship, they literally said, I don't think it's possible, therefore I'm not going to do it. If someone had that attitude, victory is being given here over that concept, which means there will be messages typically explain, probably quite a few messages in fact, that explains why this person voided the energy or had bad faith in the situation. Now, I also want to mention the reason I say that there could be many messages of love and communication coming in, clarification and discussion in this month of January, is because the Nine of Pentacles is also known as the card of plenty. Because it's the card of plenty and it's next to this Ace of Swords energy, we can take it as plenty of messages in one format. All right, let's look at the month of February. Now, this is interesting because in the upright position, it's much more favorable. It's a messenger energy. It is, again, communication, but in the reversal, there's a subtlety that comes to this card. And I use the word subtlety specifically because on one end, there is actual trickery that can happen with this card and deception. And on the other hand, it is a subtle cunningness that can come with this card. Those are two formats of communication. So it does insinuate that you will still be dealing with communication with somebody by the time you get into February, but for some reason, the art of the way they communicate is a little bit less, I don't know if I want to say compassionate, but authentic might be the word, or integral, like bearing the weight of integrity. Let's grab another card here and see what's going on here. Oh, I see. Wow. Okay, so the Six of Cups is the card of knowledge, wisdom, but pertaining to uniting effectively with those around you. If you have a card like subtle deception or subtlety, or just kind of like touching on the topic but not diving full into it, it looks like somebody that you might be communicating with. I'm going to pull another card here for a second, but it looks like somebody may not directly tell you the reality of how they feel about this unity. It's in the upright position and insinuates that they want the unity, but they're not saying it, or they're kind of masking it. It's almost like they're sugarcoating it, or even slightly, what's the phrase? When somebody, pardon my French when I say this, but when somebody pussyfoots around something, when they skirt around it, that's what the energy feels like. I'm going to pull another card though, and just see what's going on with that. Okay, see? Nine of... Oh, I know you guys are like, what? Don't just say, oh. Nine of Swords, they have a guiltiness. There's a shame and a guilt and anxiety about what the dynamic is. For many of you guys, this is when you're in an established relationship. Somebody is feeling a certain way about the way you guys have interacted. They're feeling a little bit of anxiety. They're feeling shame. There's something that's bothering them. And they want the unity, but yet they're anxiety prone about it. For those of you who have your eye on someone but are not in an established relationship, again, it looks like by February, this person has the ability to want to talk, but they kind of skirt around it, and they're skirting around the way they want to communicate properly because they're anxious. This could be, for a lot of you, being in the friend zone with somebody, but this person might actually want to be with you, but they're not expressing it because the card of the Knight of Cups is bringing in the hidden aspect, the subtle, and the sometimes masking and even fraudulent energy where they're not being fully upright about it. So let's look then at how this is going to unfold over March. The Five of Wands is here for the month of March. I know a lot of you guys are like, ooh, like, is something bad going to happen? We're going to see. The Tower card does come after it a little bit, but the Four of Wands is after it then. We'll get into those future months in a second. But here's the unique story about the Five of Wands that most of you guys don't realize, because everybody thinks of the number 5. And again, they look at it as if we are reading a deck from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, when we're not. We're reading a concept that's based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And Arthur Edward Waite spoke of a beautiful story about the Three of Wands in relation to the Four of Wands and the Five of Wands, where the Three of Wands starts off on this journey, actually starting off with the Two of Wands, where it was connected to Alexander the Great, where he was going out to conquer. And as the Two of Wands card is, he stands and where he is on his fortress, and he chooses, do I go to conquer? Then in the Three of Wands, he's looking out to the horizon, and he says, I want to go after that gold over there. Then when the Four of Wands happens, which you do have up here, we'll get to that in a moment, the Four of Wands is a person who went out and conquered and got the gold, brought it back. And the Five of Wands, this is where it's unique, because everyone thinks it's about fighting and arguments. There's a reason why there's so much competition in that card. It's because now the gold has been got. Now the reward and the good thing is there, but there is people with their eyes on it. There's jealousy and envy, and people want the gold. People end up kind of trying to go after what's yours. So yes, in one hand, the Five of Wands can be a card that has difficulties or jealousies or competition, but the reason behind it is because what people are going after is authentically true. It is good. There's something good there. Something worth people going after, right? So let's pull an extra card here with that beautiful dark fantasy tarot deck, and we will see. Also, by the way, this dark fantasy tarot deck is based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck as well. Ooh, look at this. Look at it's the devil in the reversal. You'll never see somebody get excited over the devil, but I'll get excited over the devil card when it's in the reversal, because it's very unique. Because the devil, the major arcana, the secret of the devil card is that the devil is necessary. It's called the necessary evil, but it is related to a concept called temporary bondage. And what it means is that you or your person or whoever you're talking to had to go through situations in the past. You were supposed to go through them. It is a card connected to divine providence, which means your destiny is already written. The universe, God, creator, spirit, divine feminine, whichever way you want to put it, has already written your path for you. You're just supposed to walk along it. And one of the paths you're supposed to go through with the devil card, historically speaking, as the meaning of this card goes, is that when you go through a frustrating circumstance, you are supposed to fall to get out of an old situation. And so the bondage you were stuck in, you fall from the bondage, and it makes that bondage temporary. So again, if you look at that historical concept from the macrocosm into the microcosm of how it could affect your life, then it looks to me like somebody is essentially, yes, dealing with things like envy or jealousy or competitiveness, but they are freeing themselves up from those thoughts that are running in their mind like that. So if you're in a relationship, your person or you are actively removing the bondage in that particular month of March. You are seeing the competition for what it is, and you're taking it and not letting it drag you into the upright devil position of bondage, but instead allowing for yourself or your person to process that bondage that you're giving to yourself and getting it out of there so you don't stay stuck in the energies that you guys are in. if you're in a situation where, again, you were more separated and or friend zoned, or you had your eye on someone, maybe you were talking a little bit, again, this person may have their eye on you just like you may have your eye on them. But if you have allowed yourself to be just kind of sitting and stuck in that energy with nowhere to go, then in the month of March, there's a possibility for this process to actually be the catalyst that gets you moving again, to get yourself out of the stuck bondage. And the same goes for those of you who are not dating anybody and just entering in the world of relationships. You may have to wrestle with your own thoughts inside and then say to yourself, how is it that I've been keeping myself stuck in a situation? And how can I get myself out of my own bondage? That's the reality of this here. Let us move on now to the month of April. Okay, so April brings the Tower moment. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh no, the Tower moment, just like they're like, oh no, the Devil card, oh no, the Five of Wands. But again, from a historical perspective, when we're not just making things up and we're not just like, doing it the modern way where people are just kind of throwing reasons out there, the Tower card, as described in a historical sense, I'm going to give you a history lesson by Arthur Edward Waite. In his book, The Pictorial Key to the Tarot, in his introductory, not even the way that he described each of the cards in the base of that book, but in the introductory, he tells a story that includes the Tower card. And he attributes the possibility of the Tower card as being connected to a worldview that came from a group of people from the 1200s called the Albigensians. These Albigensians, they believed they had true Christianity. And because they believed they had true Christianity, the Catholic Church persecuted them, slaughtered these people. These people believed there was a divine feminine spirit the church was trying to erase, and that they believed, not to say it's right or wrong, I'm just saying through their eyes, they believed that the God of the Old Testament was an incorrect deity. They were trying to essentially, propagate and get out there to some degree their particular faith, and were persecuted for it. With that story in mind, Arthur Edward Waite had mentioned that if we look at the card of the Pope, we can call it the Roman Catholic Church, because to him, the Albigensians had a secret language that they put in symbols as a potential. And the secret way of representing the church they described as looking at a picture of the Pope. And then furthermore, Arthur Edward Waite spoke about their secret language with the Tower card as being described as the Roman Catholic Church falling. Because, now inside of the actual book of the Pictorial Key of Tarot, because he said inside of that book that the Pope or the Hierophant is the card of rigidity. Rigid dogma, and the Tower was that rigid dogma falling. So again, the Catholic Church, there's the rigid dogma. The Tower crashing is actually the Roman Catholic Church crashing. This historical interesting lesson from over 1,000 years ago, if we take that story from the macrocosm into the microcosm of your life, then what it means is it's not just any tower that's falling. It is two important things. Any of the towers that were built on a card of lies in your life has the capability of falling. And anything that was rigid and dogmatic that needed to become way more flexible because people in a relationship were holding on to rules that shouldn't exist. This is the reality of tearing down a tower of dogma and rigidity in your life. And this can show up in a few ways. Just like the Albigensians once painted these magic symbols of their hope that the church can come down, you can say in your life, how could something symbolically in your life come down? So if you're in a relationship with somebody, and let's actually pull an extra card here. Let's before we get into that, let's pull the card and see how it's coming down. What part of your rigidity and dogma is coming down? We have, oh, wow. Wow. No way. The Tower in the reversal position. It's the card about building things back up. So what happens is, okay, to continue the historical lesson, in Arthur Edward Waite's way of looking at things, once the Tower comes down and the false church of the Hierophant is nullified, the card of the High Priestess is the one who, according to Arthur Edward Waite, has the true church. because it's not a physical body church, it's the true church of spirituality, the divine feminine, peace, love, your intuition, and following your heart. That's what was being built up. So what is coming down in the relationship is rules that did not need to come down so that rules of the heart can come up. That is the key to this. Rules of the material world are coming down so that you guys can follow your heart more and rebuild in that temple. So in the relationships that you may be in, that can look like somebody in a relationship. A situation happens in that month of April where you guys reevaluate how you've been viewing your relationship, and it allows you guys to become more able to lead with your heart. For those of you not in a relationship with somebody, and you haven't been able to get in that relationship because somebody hasn't been leading with their heart, that person is going to go through a tower moment that forces them to start listening to their heart. For those of you who are not dating anybody, or you're just maybe starting to talk to somebody online, social media, or you've gone out for a couple dates, but you're not actually, going steady with this person, as they used to say, then before you get to that phase, before you truly enter into the world of dating, the universe might teach you, or a person that you're speaking to, how to follow their heart more, so that by the time you get into the relationship, you are actually with somebody who is leading with their heart and not leading with their fears, their anxieties that we saw showing up a little bit earlier. Also, for those of you who dealt with somebody who was avoiding speaking up the truth about how they felt about you, it's likely in April that something is going to propagate them into leading with their heart. And drum roll, please, that leads us to the next month of May, because that was a nice card that I saw coming up here, including how I see the High Priestess coming up. I think, is that it? All right, let's get into the month of May, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so the month of May has one of my favorite Arthur Edward Waite cards. This is the Four of Wands. I know many people are like, but I love the Lover's card, or I love the Empress, or I love the Emperor. The reason I love the Four of Wands is because it has the energy of the Lovers in it. As we can see, here are the two characters. But this card means abundance, love, unity, harvest, togetherness, and it even is so good that it impacts your outer world and not just love and relationships. So it can bring abundance in money as well, stability, a happier you, and all of a sudden you're happier at work too, things like that. But when Arthur Edward Waite described how good these people are together, look, they're even both foxes. They're matching energetically. They're both with a fire in their mouth, a passion in their tongue. But when he spoke of this card and said it was that good, remember I said the story of the Three of Wands about Alexander the Great going off to find gold? The gold is found in this card. It's such a good gold, which could be used as a metaphor of such a good goal. You guys achieved such a good goal of love in that month of May that when you reverse this card, which you did not get it in, even in the reversal, Arthur Edward Waite says this card maintains the same good interpretation, whether it's in the upright or the reversal. So it is beautiful energy. And actually, let me grab that Dark Fantasy Tarot deck. And thank you guys also, if you have watched thus far and tolerated my children joyously playing in the background. They are very excited tonight. The way that I help you with this reading is just by appreciating also if you help me in return and bear with me while I'm a mom on my own dealing with my kids. If I ever do have to pause the video and deal with something, I absolutely will. But so far it is just them playing, so that's always good. Oh, it's the Star card. Look at that. Why is there abundance? The Star in the reversal means you felt hopeless in the dynamic. And so the abundance is to say that you're realizing that there was not an energy of hopelessness that needed to remain in this dynamic. That speaks to the previous month's readings of things like towers or envy or a little bit of like subtle distrust. Suddenly in the month of May, that hopelessness starts to shift into the Four of Wands energy. Remember, in history, the star was not just like Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio. It wasn't just when you wish upon a star. It was more like being on the open seas as a sailor, and what did you use to navigate to your goal or to your gold even? Because sometimes a sailor was just going after a little bit of booty. I'm kidding, but I'm not. That sailor was going after the loot on the ship. He was going after the gold on the ship sometimes, and they would use the stars to navigate to get them to where they needed to go. So it's another way of saying not just that hopelessness starts to lift itself up in the month of May, but that you can actually start to see where you're going with this. If you've otherwise in the previous months, in the beginning portion of 2026, been in an energy of not really clarity, not really having like a sure path of how to be with a person, suddenly the answer starts to come in. It becomes revelatory. But the star does insinuate that it's little blips at a time that start revealing itself to you. The whole path doesn't show up, but it's enough to light you up, to show you a little bit of the way and guide you to where you need to go. Beautiful energy, especially in the middle of the year. And that leads us now to the next dynamic as we get into the month of June. Okay. So the month of June, it's not the High Priestess, it's the Justice card in the reversal. This is reap what you sow energy. Let me grab my dark fantasy tarot deck here, because the Justice card means that things are their hope is that they become balanced. In the reversal, it feels a little icky. Like, okay, is there going to be an imbalance? Or is there a previous imbalance that's going to be tackled so that it can be progressed into getting balanced? Let me just shuffle here and see what's going on with this Justice card. Why has Justice come up? I also want to mention in Greek mythology, the characters of Nike and Tyche, I think that's how you pronounce them, were connected to justice and winning and triumph. So I do like that it is here in association with those. And the Lover's card has shown up. Let me shuffle one more. It's in the reversal, and the Justice card was in the reversal. It's leaning more towards like a hiccup that might happen. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, the Fool card in the reversal. Okay. It's unfortunate because the person who was looking at the path, who was like, okay, things are actually going good. Okay, abundance. All right, I'm pulling down my rigidity so that I can follow my heart. They get swallowed up into it a little bit, and for the meantime of the month of June, they stop following their heart a little bit. That's what the Fool is in the upright. It's the one who follows and leads purely with his heart. In the reversal, he becomes resistant, and there's difficulty for him to continue doing that. That doesn't mean he won't forever, but that means that at some point in the month of June, something must have happened which causes a person to try to slip back into the rigid thinking that the universe already tried to get out of them in those previous months. But that's how lessons happen. Like, think of a bike. If you wanted to ride a bike, did you just get on it and go and you were perfect and you never had to learn how to do it again? Or did you fall off like 5 times and then ride it a little bit, but then you fell off a little bit down the road again, and then you started riding it a bit more, and then again you fell once or twice? This is the key, right? Same with swimming. If you want to learn how to swim, you got to sink first, and then you swim a little, then you sink again. So this up and down habit is happening here. I can see in terms of pattern recognition, that's what it looks like to me. It looks like somebody's like putting their foot in the water of love. Like somebody's putting their foot in the ability to want to date, and they're cautious of it, so they pull back, and then they dip again, and then they get a little bit more comfortable. It's even like walking into a cold pool. You test it out, you get a little warm, then you kind of freak out a bit, you walk out, and then the warmth of the air helps you out a bit, and then you get back in a bit. Now, I say that because if we look at that analogy as we progress into the July, you're going to see that the Wheel of Fortune is suddenly there, which means luck is on this person's side. Not just luck, though. Fate, destiny. And most importantly, with the Wheel of Fortune, it's the dynamic that somebody actually does walk up to the wheel and spins the wheel of life. What they could do is they could choose to not spin the wheel of life and stay pent up in their anxiety. And they could be like, oh, I don't think I should do this dating thing. Oh, I don't think this is going to work out, so then I'm not going to do nothing. and then they don't spin the wheel of life. They never try, so they never find out. But when the wheel is in the upright position, someone does come up to the wheel of life and say, you know what? I'm going to keep giving it a shot. That's the key. The card you have with it. Oh, this is cute. This is cute, man. Page of Cups is the card of the little love. It's the one who looks at you and they're like, there's plenty of fish in the sea, but I want that fish. And he's looking at that fish. He's like, I really, really want that fish. And he's going to spin the wheel and try it. He, she, whoever it is. The Page of Cups has been known, like I said, as the card of the little love. It is also the cards of growth into a better version of love. It's a maturing energy that we could find. And I also think it's noteworthy that it is the card of messages. It's the messenger. So it's like this person is taking a chance on messages of little aspects of love. You know what? It's also the card of service. People like the Queen of Cups is like that. It's a person who's willing to, they're like compelled to render service to another person because they don't want to just work on themselves. They actually do want to work on each other and other people. And that's the key. The word other is how the Page of Cups operates. Service to others is a dynamic that he deals with. And so it feels like once this person in the middle of June goes through a bit of the shift, suddenly in July, they take one more dip in. They take one more step in, which is, again, I know a lot of people look at relationships and they're like, well, why can't he just get his mind together? He should be emotionally mature. They should be completely 100% my version of who I want them to be, emotionally available all the time, or I'm going to be conditional and I'm not going to accept them. And I'm just going to leave, like, you know, how you see how in like almost self-sabotagey that mind frame is to expect somebody else to be you or to be your version that you need them to be, when again the nature of all humans is you have to fall off the bike 17 times first, or you have to sink in the water 17 times before you swim. Want to do math? You got to fail at math a whole bunch of times with the same question over and over again before you get it. If you want to say the word mom, if you want to speak English right now like I'm doing, you have to fail at saying the word mom like 20 times when you're a child before you actually form the word "m" with your mouth. It is human nature to mess up a bunch of times in order to learn. We cannot expect another person, when we look at this back and forth and we're like, oh, why don't they get it yet? They got it for 1 month. They should get it for all months now. Nope, that's not how the human brain works. And if you try to fight against the human brain, it's a losing battle. And it's conditional love, and that's kind of, you know, when a condition breaks, so well, there goes the relationship. So this person is, again, dipping themselves in. But this time they're trying with communication in the month of July. Now, the time frame of August is next here. And we do step into one of those fives, which can be a little bit more difficult. As I had mentioned, that in modern tarot reading, people like to look at a five and they say, oh no. It is because the Five of Swords, especially with swords, which are descriptions of weapons, it is a card that can refer to battles that can happen, which can be from the macrocosm to the microcosm. Instead of a full world war that you're dealing with, heaven forbid, it's the concept of, you know, arguments and tensions, battles within your relationship or within your own self. The one thing that is, I think, annoying about the Five of Swords with that battle energy is that it can also come with revocation, which is when somebody dips their toe in and then pulls back again, which again, I know this is how humans learn, but that does not dismiss the fact and the awareness that it can be exhausting to see that happen from the other end. Like when you're on the receiving end of somebody who's there, but they're not, they're there, but they're not, when the human body also wants stability and security, when that is also a way that the human body needs to function, then it's a hard thing to deal with. On one end of your human body, you are meant to make mistakes. On the other side of the human body, mistakes and a lack of stability also frustrate the human body. So putting two people together who have this dynamic can be a little bit difficult. Let's get an extra clarification card here. The card is the Hierophant. It's in the reversal. That's the card of the Pope I was telling you about earlier. I like it in the reversal because it means the tower has fallen down. But I'm going to pull one more here because it almost feels like, why would someone with the Five of Swords feel a sense of loss about their previous tower coming down unless all of a sudden the reason that they were getting exhausted in that month of August was because they didn't know what their own identity was now. Like, that's what it feels like. Sorry, let me say that grammatically correct. Why somebody would feel a sense of loss about their walls coming down is usually when someone is now in a position where they don't know what their identity is as much. With their walls down, they're left vulnerable. With their walls down, they're left wondering, how could they have not seen the truth for this long? That's what this kind of looks like. Because if you read them together, it's loss of, rigidity, and dogma. You know? Why would someone think rigidity and dogma is a loss unless they were really attached to the way they thought things were going to be, and then an illusion shattered that, and it gets a little difficult for them? Okay, let's shuffle and get one more card here. Yeah, see that? Ace of Pentacles. And now look at this, though. Because now, how do you take an Ace of Pentacles that's supposed to be... Woo, so good. Oh, my kids just said sorry after that. Sorry about how loud they were screaming in excitement there. But how do you take the Five of Swords, a card of loss, and stick it next to the Ace of Pentacles unless somebody thinks that they lost an opportunity attached to their identity? It seems a little bit like there's like a grieving to this person's identity or your identity that's happening in the middle of August. Just putting it out there. But I want you to know that if you or your person loses a path, or the path shifts so dramatically that you don't recognize how to get down the path, that's okay. There is a path still. You just can't see it fully, and it might hurt a little. Or they can't see it fully, and it might bother them. Let me give you an example as I get us ready for that next month of September there. I've said this example many times in previous readings. If you are at a brand new job and you have a new identity, your new identity is you're the cashier at a grocery store. And you've never stepped foot in this grocery store before. You're standing in the cafeteria and you need to know how to get to the human resources office, but you don't know the path. You don't know where this human resources office is. You can stand still and think about all the loss of how you don't know the path, or you could walk down a hallway and see if you end up on the path. The hallway is there. The path is there. You just don't know if you're supposed to take a left or a right at the end of the hallway. So you take a left and maybe you took a little bit of a wrong hallway turn. You turn around, you go back down the right. You're still on a path. You just still can't see the outcome, and it bugs you until you walk a little further because you chose not to just stay stagnant and stay still. Remember, this is also a metaphor for your love life. You keep walking, you keep trying, you keep going a little further, and all of a sudden at the top of the hallway, you see a sign that says Human Resources Office this way. So you're not at the Human Resources Office, but suddenly the path starts to reveal itself. But it could only reveal itself if you keep trying, if you keep going, if you keep giving it a shot. So in the month of August, if someone's identity feels like they can't see their path anymore, it doesn't mean the path is not there, but it means they're trying to sort it out and it's bothering them that they can't see the path, and it makes them nervous to go on the path. This is that moment again of dipping your toe in, even using the metaphor of not just dipping your toe in, but walking down the hallway, then getting a little nervous and standing still and saying, should I go left or should I go right? I don't know. They've walked down many hallways, but still, you can sink 50 times before you swim. You can fall off a bike 50 times before you get back on it. When I say that the action of making mistakes, man, my kids are rowdy. When I say the action of making mistakes is in every area of our life, I'm not kidding. You guys do it all the time. And me too. We are doing this making mistake, looking left, looking right, getting nervous, walking down a hallway, going to a new job, going to a new school, getting a bill in the mail. Mistake world all the time. It's just in the world of love, we really overthink it. That's the one area where when we can't see an outcome, we get really fucking panicky over it. And yet we do this in many areas of our life. And we don't freak out as much when we're in a new hallway at our work. We just keep walking. But in love, we tend to freeze. That brings me to the next month here, which is going to be September, as I mentioned, 39 minutes into this reading. And September is bringing the energy of the moon. This is confusion. But it is in the upright position. So it does bring sometimes fertility, because that's why there's a rabbit on it. Fertility also insinuates that there could be people coming together. That's why there's 2 rabbits coming together on this depiction. On the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it is a card of a dog, 2 of them. One of them is gold, one of them is red, and they are howling at the moon. I want you to remember what it means in history and mythology to howl at the moon. It means you're wild. You're going wild, right? There's a carnal body energy attached to the moon card sometimes. So on one sense, the moon can mean confusion. It can mean fertility, but it can also mean passion and lust because people are howling at each other like wild animals all of a sudden. That's why the rabbit is there again. It's the expression fucking like rabbits. Have you ever heard that expression? You're getting a pound town as a potential. But let's see. For some of you, that could be the case. For others of you, there's still confusion that's going to be brought in the month of September here. Okay. We have the 8. Oh, wow. Yay. It's the 8 of Cups in the reversal. Oh, wow. Okay. So the 8 of Cups in the upright traditionally is the card of walking away from things. But here's the really cool part about it in the reversal. And I am going to pull one more card still. But in the reversal, Arthur Edward Waite spoke about the 8 of Cups as being, when in the reversal, the card of great abundance and a great feast. That is why in the upright it looks like somebody walking away, but in the reversal it is somebody coming to all of these cups. Remember, the 8 of Cups is right before the 9 of Cups of wish fulfillment. So they're coming to all of these cups, and in history, in medieval history, where were the rooms? Where were the rooms with all of the cups? They were the feast rooms. The feast rooms of celebration. The kings coming together to have a great feast to celebrate what? Their victory. Now the question is, why would the moon card be here with a card of great victory and great abundance and great feasting? Why would the confusion card be here about that? Is the energy that somebody is confused about coming back? They want to because they see the abundance? Or is it that somebody's coming back because they're being led by themselves howling like the dog and the wolf at the moon? Let's see what's up. The Knight of Swords. It's a messenger card, but it's usually a card about making an announcement of some sort. And it's usually very clear what that announcement is. But he's the guy who runs into battle. So I think that you're in a dynamic with someone. This is when you're with someone, and if you have been looking and keeping your eye on someone, and if you were trying to date someone but you hadn't started dating yet. I feel like by this month of September, there's a really good chance that somebody. Have you ever heard of the term "fools rush in"? It feels like somebody rushes in even though they're freaking nervous, but they're doing it because they straightforwardly, with assertion, want to do this, want their great feast, they want their abundance, they want you, even though they're confused about it. It's almost like there's a concept that, and you know what? The rest of your cards are actually really good for the rest of the year. It's almost like they begin to come into this phase where even though there was battles and even though there was confusion, the amount of times they tested and stepped in the water has actually started to break away. It's like a child being emotionally regulated. If you've ever seen a child who is dysregulated, and humans, adults, are just, big versions of little children and their regulation systems. If you've ever seen a child who is dysregulated, you'll notice that there's phases of dysregulation. But once the regulation happens, it doesn't happen at this climactic moment. It happens where somebody tests something out. The child comes to you and maybe they put their arm on you. Is mommy safe? Is mommy going to help me? And then they lean their whole body on you and they test it out a little more. And then they lean in and they get a little bit of a hug, but they kind of pull back. I'm telling you again, this is the avenue of making mistakes, just in human form. And then finally, after a couple times they've dipped their toe in, they realize, oh my gosh, this thing is safe. This person is safe. I may have been confused, but this person is actually safe. So then, like the Knight of Swords, they charge into their great celebratory feast. The heart begins to override the cups, and the abundance begins to override their mind, which is what was happening in this whole thing, was about someone who was overthinking so much and painting a picture of how they thought love was supposed to be. And the universe tore it down with the Tower card and with the Hierophant card. This person is getting emotionally torn down. And Libras, if you know anything, especially Libra risings, about what's happening with Saturn for y'all, you know, that Libras heavy for the next 2 years are getting regulated in the relationship sector. 7th house energy, babies. 5th house, 7th house energies. No joke. You know, like you guys have really, really good energy coming out in a beautiful lesson learning and emotionally regulatory way. Because you know what happens when then the proverbial child leans in that I was talking about, who just tests, is mommy safe? Once they realize they're safe, they stop feeling the need to dip their toes so much, and they just come and give you a hug the other times in the future that they might fall off the bike. This is not to say that you want to mother your future partner, but it is to say that dynamics between people are emotionally regulatory, and they do exist off of the human body system, so we have to bear that in mind. And this person, or you, was anxiety prone and needed to find that it was okay to be vulnerable. This is what it looks like. This is vulnerability, love 101, in a way that's actually useful. Let me remind you guys that aside from the Tower card, do you see any heartbreak cards? Did you see the Devil in an upright position? No. You know, did you see, like, again, cards of someone over controlling and mean? We didn't even see the King of Swords. We didn't see great sorrow like the Queen of Swords. What we're seeing is it's a pattern of emotional regulation that's happening. And we all go through it. Okay, let's move along here. We've got 3 months left. We're going to now dig into the month of October. And this is really unique because, let me see here. Let me just write down my timing. We're at 47 minutes here. We've got the Page of Swords. And it's funny because Page of Swords is notorious as the spy card. Lots of tarot readers will look at any page and they'll be like, oh, someone's watching you. Oh, someone's creeping on your stuff. And most of the time tarot readers say that because they know from a mentalism perspective, like if you've ever studied mentalism before, they know that almost everybody's been creeped on. So if they say it to you with any page, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. A page must be spying. It's the Page of Swords that's the spy card. That is why, even on this deck, you guys, don't mind my accents had to come out. My sense of humor is building. Something funny about this reading is happening, right? Even in this deck, you see, that the Page of Swords is the samurai. That's what he is. He's a samurai in this depiction. That's because the Page of Swords historically was a leader of authority who was hiring a spy. And the spy was sent to go and investigate things and understand them and report back to the person in a position of authority. And so the page, yes, is a messenger card, but it's a messenger card of messages in and behind the scenes. Thoughts and things that somebody is learning in and behind the scenes because they are allowing themselves now in the month of October to watch and witness and observe healthily, which is what happens after emotional regulation occurs. I told you. I said the example of children or adults or teenagers. Once they become safe, then the child looks at you and observes if you can be safe and stay safe. Because now they're close enough to you to actually see you for who you are. That's what I'm getting here. Communication is coming in the month of October, but the communication may be subtle and there will be much more observing that's happening. Let me shuffle these cards. Let me put these cards in the deck as well. I've got 2 of them sitting out here. Let's shuffle these all in, get a shuffle, and see about why this person is in this energy of being so observant, or why you are so observant in this month of October. Okay, the card we have is the Judgment card. Ooh. I know. It's a card that looks like, oh, okay. Sorry, intuition and downloading is happening right now. I was going to say, it looks like the card of, someone having a judgment made against them. Everybody thinks of judgment and they think of court orders and regulation and law. And yes, the judgment card can be connected to those things. Excuse me, but its original meaning was the calling. It was a card in that, remember the ancient Albigensians that I told you about? They believed that the Catholic Church, it was going to get torn down. And what the card of judgment meant for them was that they were being called back to, in their traditions, called back to God, the real source. It usually happened because they were getting persecuted. So they have cards like the Ten of Swords where there's pictures of people's bodies who had died. And that's because the people who made the language, according to Arthur Edward Waite, this secret symbolic language, they were telling the story in the cards of the tarot about how their people were getting persecuted. That's why they had so many people who were dead in a lot of the cards. Again, like the Ten of Swords has a body that's passed on in that image, right? So once a person passed on to the material world, then they got called on to the spiritual world. They became martyred with the judgment card, or they were called on to go back to their original way of being, to a better, more balanced way of being. So there is some thing here that almost says, in one aspect, that a person becomes observant in the month of October because they start to be called back home to where their body feels safe, to where they wanted their body and their mind and their heart to feel safe. It is the calling to observe that there is a home that feels good, a love that feels good. It's a beautiful energy to have these two cards together like this. But I will say that for some of you, it's not a negative thing, but because the Page of Swords is a card connected to an authority, a king who tells that Page of Swords to be observant and go spy on things, and the Judgment card is connected to the greatest authority of God, there is a little bit here that does insinuate that you or your person, whoever you're talking to, may be dealing with somebody in their outer world that has to do with authority in their life. And they all of a sudden shift out of focusing a lot on love. They're still there, but something's being called from them. Something's being asked of them in their outer world. Maybe someone's job, all of a sudden they've got a shift or a raise, or maybe somebody's in school and things are shifting. Maybe they are dealing with something with their home. But what I like is that this doesn't mean that they are alone or that you are alone. Look at how many people are here. People are being called back together, right? So if there is a little bit of independence that happens in the month of October, it's interdependence, not full-blown independence, not full-blown codependence. It's almost like an allowing for you guys to not have to think about all the previous month's stuff all over here, but instead life happens in the now in that month of October. And you guys are like, oh, hey, you've got this thing going on. Yeah, I've got some stuff going on too. And you guys just kind of work at life together, which is really lovely. You guys have, I think, one of the best readings in all of the signs that I've read so far. Let's move on now. As we get down to these last 2 months, we are going on in the full hour of this reading, and all of my 12-month readings, when I do private readings for people like this, they are 12 months, usually an hour reading. 6 months, I do those readings too, usually a half an hour. But these ones, well, if you ever want to come in the future and look at this video again, maybe you'll be in the month of October 2026 and you're like, I should go back to that reading. Well, guess what? In this tarot reading, I'm putting the timestamps of each month at the description and in the comments, so you'll always be able to find whichever month you need, so that you don't have to re-go through this entire long, hour-long reading here. But again, I like this as we travel into the month of November, because the card you suddenly have, is the Sun card. Whether this card is in the upright or the reversal, it is a beautiful omen. Beautiful omen. It means answers are coming. It means parts of the answers that you need in a relationship are actually already there in the month of November. If you think of the Sun card in the reversal, sometimes it means that the moon is up a little bit. But if you look at it cyclically, what happens with the sun, right? The sun goes down, the moon comes up. When the moon is finished, the sun comes back up. See, so when you have the sun in the reversal position, it doesn't mean that you are not getting good clarity. Oh no, the sun is gone, the sun is in the reversal. It just means that there's a little bit of a slowed down time, a little bit more of time that's going to pass where there's not necessarily something as super exciting. But also it means that there is some kind of answer that you're going to be receiving, but you just might receive it a little bit down the line. Let's shuffle another card here. We have, oh, that's lovely. Look at this. Ace of Wands, new passionate experiences. I'll tell you what, if some of you guys in the months before November have watched a person that you've been talking to starting to get okay with you and starting to get closer and starting to get closer, this insinuates that in November, it's not that they're going to be all cuddled up in ya, because it's the card of a slight delay to get cuddled up in ya. Just by the way, let's put it into Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley believed the Ace of Wands reflected a picture of a phallic symbol. Big old male genitalia. And what do? They climax, right? So lots of passion can come with that card if you look at it from his perspective. But again, it's like almost there to that climax. This person is getting comfortable enough, which I think is really unique, because then we're going to go straight into it, guys. We're going to do the month of December here. Let me just jot my time down where we're 56 minutes and 10 seconds into December. Then after the slight delay happens, who do we get? The Page of Wands. The Page of Wands. Let me tell you about the Page of Wands. He is a frisky little bugger. He's the one who wants to take his wand, as we just discovered and discussed. It can be connected to male genitalia and passion. He takes his wand and he starts going all out with it because he wants to find out what this thing can do. Now he's the one who's called the card of the faithful lover, is the exact phrase that Arthur Edward Waite, when we're not dealing with Aleister Crowley. He said, yes, it's passion, it's sexuality, right? It's curiosity about the sexuality of another person. But Arthur Edward Waite said it was a faithful, honest, and true lover. That's the card of commitment. By the time you get to the end of December 2026, that's you knocking boots with somebody, and you are looking at someone and saying, oh my God, we finally did it. We're here. And now we're about to knock each other's socks off. That's the vibe that I get from watching the Sun card have the card right before it in the month of November talking about the Ace of Wands and passion, and merge into the card of the faithful lover by the time we get to December. I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, pages are so immature. Let me tell you something. The pages, first off, the wands in general are arguably, and it's almost not even arguable, but you could say, for plausible deniability, if you wanted to go that route and be particular about the way you use words, arguably the most important fucking cards in the entire tarot deck are the cards of the wands. That's why when they're listed out in tarot, much like the Empress comes first before the Emperor. Notice the Empress is card number 3, right? The Emperor didn't get card number 1. It wasn't masculine energy is the best, right? The Empress and her power comes first. She's got 2 swords or 2 staffs. He's only got 1. Queen of Wands has 2 scepters. Her king only has 1. Much like in those cards, there was a numbering sequence of importance. The Wands was put in the sequence of experience first, because you cannot operate any of the other cards of cups, swords, or pentacles without the wand. That's why the Magician card, he has all the cards, all of the things in front of him. He could choose a cup, he could choose a sword, he could choose a wand, he could choose a pentacle. He's got a huge thing laid out in front of him. He could choose any of them. But what does he hold in his hand? And what does he cast up into the air? The wands. And that's why when Arthur Edward Waite interpreted the Wands card, this is lesson in tarot reading, by the way, if any of you guys ever want to be like a Gnostic tarot, in-depth architectural understanding of tarot. That's why Arthur Edward Waite listed the wands first before any of the other suits that he wanted to interpret. Because you have to understand, page, sure, it can mean immaturity, but it is the learning and curiosity and willpower of the most powerful freaking suit that you have. And it's supposed to be there to get you to the other cards. And in fact, it is the suit of wands with the page of wands then transforming into the knight and the king, that those cards lead you to the emperor and the empress. Remember, the emperor doesn't wear blue like the king of swords. He doesn't wear purple like the king of pentacles. He wears red. He's wearing the garment of the king of wands, who that page in the upright is going to turn into. For this reason, the page of wands is known as the faithful, committed, true lover. And just to put a little heads up about it, when he turns into the king of wands, everyone's like, oh my gosh, the king of wands is so ego and so prideful. No. Again, read it for yourself. Read the instructions of the tarot that Arthur Edward Waite gave if you're going to read his deck. The King of Wands is the man who does all things in truth. His only thing in the reversal is not that he's not committed, not that he's not truthful. He's still very committed, but he becomes the card of severe commitment. He's austere, yet severe. And that page of wands is eventually going to turn into that. So you've got this wonderful energy for the month of December of the best format of immaturity. The one who transforms into maturity the right way. That's why I had to explain all of that to you. That's why the page of wands was never just a card of some flippant kid who's just throwing a wand around. You know what I mean? It's so much more than that. Ooh, look at this. The six of wands is here in the reversal position. This is fascinating because I'm going to pull another card for this too. Because the six of wands is the card of loss. In the reversal, it's also the card of like reputation loss. And it's the card of feeling like you fumbled something. Fumbled the bag, fumbled the person, right? In the reversal position. So this person's page of wands energy is all of a sudden here. And he's experiencing something that he may have felt like he lost at some point. But let me just clarify what's going on. 2 pages. Oh, I think it's susceptibility. The Page of Pentacles. In the upright, he's planting the seed. See, it is about curiosity. He is planting something. I'm just going to put this out there. It just intuitively drilled into my head. Watch out for December for people in pregnancy. That's 2 boys showing up in one shot. That's also the card of planting the seed with the card of expression of male genitalia showing up. But the loss in the middle, perhaps this person, they're going forward with this, but they may also be holding on to this thing about the past. The Six of Wands. I feel like I still want one more clarification about that Six of Wands. Like, why do they feel like there's a loss, but the pages are both in the upright? The Hanged Man in the reversal. They need a new perspective. They're just working on their new perspective. The Hanged Man is the card of perspective. So again, it's not that this person goes through an actual loss in December, but there's still something in them that's a little attached to previous losses. Also, when this is all happening, it may be happening a little fast for this relationship dynamic, because it's not that the Page of Wands is susceptibility, but it's that's in the reversal. When the 2 pages are in the upright, it's actually disquiet. But disquiet can have its 2 swings of ways too. In one sense, disquiet can be in your mind, in your perspective. In another side, the disquiet can be the energy of so much happening so fast that everything that you guys do together is noisy. Like, again, with each other, talking all the time, hanging out with each other, activity here, going out to lunch, it's like very fast-paced motion kind of thing. Again, Page of Wands, very, very like passionate, quick. But it's whatever's happening, because the Page of Pentacles, I like this too, actually, if you think about it. What does the Page of Pentacles do? Okay, so here's the loss, but the Page of Pentacles plows the field. He takes the seed that's in his hand and he plants the seed so that he can get to the Knight of Pentacles, which is long-term success. So whatever it is that you're planting with this person in December, yes, there may have been losses. Yes, there may be perspectives that need to be shifted, but because the 2 pages are there in the upright position, the communication that you guys go through is going to set the stage for foundationally planting the seeds for your future. With this kind of a dynamic, that is setting you up for a very promising 2027. and a lot of a good experience happening after, I would say, September, October of this year. So you guys have a really good reading, and a lot of it picks up in the second half of the year. And I love that for you. So I'm going to leave you off with that. If you guys are ever interested in a private reading, feel free to let me know. Or if you ever just want to hang out, then I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I'm the only Linny D who has green hair in her profile picture, so you can feel free to get a hold of me there just to chill. And that's everything. I'm off now to do the sign of Scorpio. And yeah, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I will talk to you later, and ciao for now.